The wrong way HOV crash that killed 2 people on I-25 over the weekend has us taking a closer look tonight at how often crashes happen involving those one-way lanes that you might just presume are safer. In the case of Saturday's crash, investigators say 24-year-old Kimberly Rodriguez Roldan was under the influence of something when she got into the HOV going the wrong way at 70th. In order for that to typically happen, a driver would need to go around cones and a crossing arm and ignore all of the wrong way and do not enter signs. That crash killed 47-year-old Miguel Ramirez Gutierrez and his passenger, 17-year-old Michael Ramirez Murrow. Michael went to the Denver Center for International Studies, where today the principal described him as a source of positive energy. We took a closer look at the crash data and found that there have been about 30 wrecks involving these less congested HOV lanes in just the past 2 years. One of the most recent involved a driver in the HOV who ended up outside of it and directly in the path of 65-mile-per-hour traffic. Marshall Zellinger has the dash cam video we had to watch several times to believe.
I was in a similar accident going down I-25 where a lady decided to exit the HOV lanes into oncoming traffic.
If you're anything like me, you just cringed and went, "Oh!" This is what happened to David Widhelm on January 12th, southbound I-25, 1 mile south of 58th Avenue, where you see all the furniture stores. During the evening rush hour, someone in the HOV lanes decided to leave the HOV lanes using this opening meant for emergency and authorized vehicles only.
As I come up on about 48th Avenue, just out of nowhere, a car just came and shot out, and I T-boned it right from the side. I just remember seeing her rear wheels airborne and then impact. I had no time to hit the brakes or react or do anything.
This geometry is from the Denver Police Accident Report. It shows the driver was actually in the far right lane going north in the HOV lanes. She hit the car to her left, popped out of the gap, right in front of David and right next to the driver's door of another car.
Nobody hit me, luckily, in between. I was going like 60 miles an hour. I just remember the seatbelt locking up super hard and not being able to breathe. Broke a few ribs, and I got some torn ligaments, I believe, in both rotator cuffs.
David believes the emergency vehicle openings provide too easy of an access that contributed to his crash. We counted 3 access points on the south side of the HOV lanes and 2 on the north.
I think they just have too many openings on that stretch. They could get on and get off. I mean, it's not that long of a stretch to need that many openings. If they didn't have that opening, she would have never tried to exit the highway right there.
I just want to reiterate that the crash from this weekend was not the result of one of those emergency access points. So how does this happen?
Yeah.
I just got off the phone with the driver who caused the crash. She tells me she got on at Coors Field, thought she was getting on I-25, got panicked when she realized there was no exit out, and somehow used that access point as an exit, but didn't really have a good explanation for why right there.
And it was clear that she was confused because she thought she was in that HOV for a long time when she wasn't.
She told me she thought she was in it for 25 miles, and it's really about 2.5 miles at that point.
Wow. It's clear that there are people who are confused by this, so we're going to continue to look at how all this happens. Marshall, thank you. So back when our 9 Wants to Know team first raised the issue of secret prisoners, we were told, you were told, that some dangerous killers needed to be kept in secret places hidden from their victims' families. Those families were not satisfied with that answer. And today, the state Senate unanimously passed a bill that would require the state to tell victims and their families where an inmate has been transferred to out of state. There are some exceptions, like if the inmate is a witness or if the head of prisons thinks disclosure would be a particular danger to the inmate or staff. That bill now goes to the House. Longmont's public housing leaders have some splaining to do, and they're being asked to do it tomorrow night in public. Longmont's mayor told me that he and city leaders need some answers. The housing leaders will be asked about the unconstitutional warrantless searches of low-income tenants' apartments, searches that Longmont police have long since apologized for and paid out a settlement over, but that the Longmont Housing Authority has steadfastly maintained that nobody on their end has been held accountable for yet. Mayor Brian Bagley says the Housing Authority leaders have been summoned to appear before City Council tomorrow night to provide some answers. We will be there and we'll let you know what happens. Denver Mayor Michael Hancock is saying for the first time that the city will turn over documents to avoid a threatened subpoena from the Department of Justice. DOJ wants to see if Denver's carefully crafted immigration directives to city workers stray into violating the federal law that prohibits city employees from refusing to communicate with immigration agents. Now, previously, the city would only say that they were examining this request from the feds. The mayor today was clear they'll cooperate.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Our policies have been transparent. When we announced what our strategies would be, we were very clear that we're going to train our employees on what they can ask for and what they cannot ask for, what information they can share, what information they cannot share about clients and about people who are before them. And so the reality is that that's very transparent and clear. There's nothing that we're doing in violation of the federal law. And so we have no problems whatsoever sharing that information.
We specifically asked the mayor about the ICE director's plea before Congress recently to let his agents take suspected criminals into custody in safer places like city jails, rather than waiting, having somebody released, and then risking a dangerous raid in the community. Denver, of course, has been criticized for giving ICE little warning before releasing people wanted for deportation. The mayor today, to us, echoed the famous phrase etched everywhere from the Constitution to doormats: come back with a warrant.
Bring us a warrant. At the end of the day, if you know we're holding someone that you suspect to be, involved with criminal activity in the city of Denver, we're not going to do your job. Bring us a warrant. Say, I need to see someone, and we will fully cooperate with the DOJ and ICE.
You can see Marshall Zellinger's unedited conversation with the mayor in full on the next YouTube channel. We learned today the first details about the funeral service for Deputy Heath Gum, the Adams County deputy who was killed last week in the line of duty in Thornton. His service is going to be Friday, 11 o'clock in the morning at Flatirons Community Church in Lafayette. Organizers are still trying to figure out if that's going to be open to the public or not. As soon as we have those details, we'll pass them along to you. A group gathered today at the Capitol in Denver to talk about a familiar issue, the homeless's right to rest. The idea is they're pushing for a Right to Rest Act, which would ban police from issuing citations to people who are homeless and resting in public spaces, sleeping or eating. Think the 16th Street Mall. That bill died in the legislature last year. One way to understand the scope of that challenge is to look at the numbers. But good numbers, when it comes to homelessness, can be tough to find. Every year, volunteers across America attempt to track the number of people who are homeless in our communities. In Colorado, they call it Everyone Counts. Our Noel Brennan tells us about a massive overnight operation.
There is no excuse, and I don't care what side of the equation we're on, for a person to suffer the indignity of being without a safe place to live.
How do we wrap our hands around homelessness?
We need to talk about the underlying issue of poverty.
How do we talk about it without getting a real sense of the problem? A snapshot is a start.
Sometimes people start talking with you and they'll want to tell you their whole story.
The Metro Denver Homeless Initiative has been training volunteers who hit the streets at sundown.
We have teams going out on unsheltered counts into camps and green spaces to count people who are sleeping outside.
They're visiting shelters and libraries, conducting surveys across 7 counties.
So some of the questions we're asking, is this your first time experiencing homelessness? So we get a sense of newly homeless compared to people who've been on the street or in shelter for a long time. Last year, we counted over 5,000 people experiencing homelessness in Metro Denver.
A snapshot from one night will be passed on to the Department of Housing and Urban Development
for purposes of getting a better understanding of homelessness nationally and locally.
No lofty goals to solve homelessness in one night.
It's one day in a year.
Just a snapshot of a problem that exists 364 other days a year.
And for me, just to talk about homelessness in this day and age is not enough.
For Next, I'm Noel Brennan.
These annual point-in-time reports are shared on the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative's website. If you're interested in really digging into the details, we'll have that link in this article on 9news.com. Our next question comes from a viewer named Elizabeth. I recently had some out-of-state friends come and stay with me in Denver. They purchased marijuana and didn't consume it all during their stay. But my husband and I don't partake in that sort of thing. I'm wondering if there's any sort of drop-off place, like with expired meds I could drop it off at, or what the proper disposal methods are. So if I follow Elizabeth, you want to know what to do with leftover marijuana. Pretty sure you could kind of just put it out in front of your house with a free sign. It'd be gone in minutes. But you came to us for a serious answer. So we called state marijuana regulators. They recommended grinding up the marijuana and mixing it with something else. I assumed that brownie mix would work, plus 2 eggs, half cup of vegetable oil, quarter cup of water, oven at 350, bake, and then bake. Actually, my bosses were very clear that I am not allowed to read a recipe for pot brownies on TV. So, Elizabeth, we returned to the official answer from the state, which is to grind it up and mix it with food waste, shredded paper, or dirt before throwing it in the trash. So I think we gave you at least 2 options. Next, we'll tell you about an artist's last-ditch effort to make something memorable out of another old house in Denver about to be displaced by development. The most Colorado thing we saw today is 9 things, 9 ways to divide our state. A Colorado native and graphic designer by the name of Josh Bennett took inspiration from the famous Atlas of Prejudice maps by the Bulgarian artist Yankov Svetkov. He draws these new, often very funny boundaries for various regions based on societal issues and things that people talk about. So here's how Josh carved up Colorado. Divvying up Colorado between the mountains and western Kansas. A map with the Colorado natives in blue and the Californians and Texans in red. I share the artist's favorite of the 9, the snowmelt map. The dark blue ends up in the Mississippi, the light blue in the Rio Grande, and the yellow ends up in the fountains at the Bellagio. But it's not all about dividing us. This map has Coloradans who love our state flag in red. And it's all red.
I was on Reddit and saw an amazing map called 9 Ways to Divide the U.S. And I just, I thought it was funny and had a cool graphic style, and I thought I should really do one of those for Colorado. And ideas started popping into my head right away. But my favorite one's probably the snowmelt ends up in the fountain at the Bellagio. Just sort of, I love going climbing, and when I'm climbing, whenever I see a stream, I'm always thinking about where does that water end up?
Josh says he's blown away by how popular his maps have become online. You can see all 9 of them up close on the next Facebook page.
As a woman who deals with maps daily, I find that story really interesting. I'm meteorologist Kathy Sabin. It is unusually mild for January. A windy, mild evening. We've got the warm before another midweek storm, and the mountains will benefit from a storm that arrives on Wednesday. Right now, 51 at the airport after a high close to 60 degrees. We'll go even warmer tomorrow. Warmest day of the week will be tomorrow. Thankfully, the winds are starting to die down a little bit. High and mid-level clouds coming in. Tomorrow, we'll have another dry day, a windy day with all the advisories north of our forecast area. Snow develops in the high country Wednesday, here in Denver Wednesday night. I don't have accumulation with the Wednesday night storm, but I do have 1 to 3 inches of accumulation possible with a weekend storm system. We'll be talking about that tonight on 9 News at 9 and 10. Partly cloudy, windy west, low 30. Tomorrow sunny and warmer, a few clouds around, high 65. We do get you into the midweek time period with a cooling trend and a few flurries. Again, no accumulation for Denver, 2 to 6 inches of snow for the mountains, but it is the weekend storm that I think holds the promise of a bit of snow here in Denver.
Kathy, thanks. So I'm pretty sure that some folks would call for the Broncos coach to be fired just based on how he butters his toast in the morning. After what we saw over the weekend, Mike Kliss thinks everybody just needs to calm down. There's been a lot of ink spilled over gentrification in Denver lately. One artist is using a very large canvas to explore that touchy subject, and our Ann Herbst went inside.
Even when you're new to Denver,
I moved here about 3 months ago.
It's something that's pretty hard to miss.
This is something that you notice everywhere. Like, they're just square, boxy. Some of them have those little other boxes that shoot out from near the windows.
So artist Marcus Puskar wanted to make a statement outside that box.
It's just a way to, second guess what you're tearing down.
A 2-month project he calls Funk House, one that uses a lot of colors to focus on one word.
Yeah, I mean, the big G word, absolutely.
Gentrification, that's the subject. The canvas? The inside of this purple house in northwest Denver. A house Marcus's friend rents that was sold and is now slated to be bulldozed, just like the one right next door.
This is a problem caused by rapid development and big money moving into places, and everything is becoming very similar and identical everywhere you go. It's killing culture. My mom said no paint on the walls, so finally got to do that.
Marcus says he hopes this redecoration of sorts opens eyes before more little purple houses are tossed.
You know, there's a lot of memories that went on in this house and the one next door and any other ones in this neighborhood that are going to get, you know, flattened out.
For Next, this is Ann Herbst.
Keys to the place have to be turned over on Wednesday. Marcus doesn't know when the final stage of his art project, the demolition, is going to happen. He did say he will be there with his camera to document it. Vance Joseph is 5-11 as the coach of the Denver Broncos, but he is 0-1 coaching the Senior Bowl, a meaningless game to showcase college talent over the weekend. But Broncos fans are all riled up again after another Vance Joseph-led team got trounced. Our Broncos guy Mike Kliss suggests we all simmer down now.
Yeah, it just looks like, I know it wasn't a good look, and criticize Vance Joseph all you want for 5-11 during the regular season, the 8-game losing streak. There were times that the Broncos looked poorly coached, but a college all-star game, I mean, come on, people. It's, you know, it's modified rules. They had a 2-minute warning and a change of possession after every quarter. They didn't let them blitz. They didn't even let them substitute in the secondary with nickel packages. It really wasn't a game. Vance Joseph basically wanted these players to showcase their talent. That was their #1 priority. #2 was winning. Yes, they didn't want to get blown out like they did, and after the season they had, it probably wasn't what the Bronco fans wanted from Vance Joseph. But those are the guys, those are the fans that wanted him fired after this season. He wasn't fired. He's coming back for his second season. He's got a new coaching staff. Let's see what he does with his players when he gets his own quarterback. He now has his own coaches. I think Vance Joseph deserves a second chance, and he's getting a second chance.
As everybody slowly lowers their torches and pitchforks. But hey, Von Miller's found a way to stay busy with the Broncos out of the business of football going into Super Bowl weekend. He is launching a new comedy variety show on Facebook called Von Miller's 58. The description on Facebook says, Studio 58's an all-access, slightly fantastical comedic trip through the life of an NFL superstar. Based out of Von's man cave, the show features Von's brother and a celebrity guest. They take on anything and everything. Judging by how people were laughing in the next office, I think it's worth a watch. Premieres Wednesday night. Coming up, an item of note for all of us who love beer and have had trouble fitting into our suit jackets lately. Beer and salad together. Next. Put this in the category of totally not news, but totally too good not to share. Our photojournalist Adam Vance caught this dog living his best life I-25 Saturday. Lips and ears just flapping away in the breeze. You hear Adam's boys laughing in the background, too. That dog is loving life. Hey, it's a sign that I might finally start eating some salad, as my wife has requested. This was sign spotted by next viewer John Welter in Centennial. This place apparently serves hopped salads. All right, that sounds decent, right? Makes beer better, sure. John emailed us and said, is this new trend, salad, beer, something else in beer? We're not sure. We think it might just be a missing C in chop, John. I'm unclear, but if you see a sign that makes you do a double take, email next@9news.com or get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext. George writes in, Kyle was wondering what everyone was complaining about regarding your jackets, and now I know. Karen writes, once again, displeased with the news of the day. Almost didn't turn on the TV, but I did. Once again, you cheered me up. Several of you suggested that Elizabeth get rid of her excess pot with a series of small fires. I don't think Elizabeth knows what you're saying. I'll see you next time.